I hate my job. Do you hate yours? How does that affect your writing? Let's talk about that. Episode 83 of Horrible Writing. That will never work. You can't publish that. Seriously? Don't. Oh my God, that's the other thing to do. That's bad. You probably should find other hobbies. You ever learn how to spell? Stop. Be happy. Well, you don't. Don't bother. I've seen better papers. Do you really want to? And my third grade. Get up. Welcome to Horrible Writing, the rawest, most candid, in-your-face writing show on the interwebs because none of us have time to suck. Let's do this. Welcome to Horrible Writing. I'm your host, Paul Sading. I hope this finds everybody well. If you're one of the new people who's joined us in the Horrible Writing Writer Support Group on Facebook, thank you. Wow, that group is really starting to blow up. It's pretty absolutely awesome. I absolutely love it. I was talking to someone recently, another writer, and we were talking about my past life in the military and why I am like I am today. And this person told me that this would be a great topic to talk about on the show. It stemmed from them asking me how in the world I create so much. How do I stay so driven, so focused? What was behind it? All fair questions. I tried to explain to this person my drive and motivation, that discipline to write as much as I do, to create as much as I do. I'm still coming up on a year since Chasing the Demon was published. 3 books are already out there. The 4th book is almost back from the editor. The 5th book, I'm about coming up on 70% done with my edits on it. It won't all happen within a year, but realistically within 18 months-ish, I might have 5 books out there. That doesn't happen by accident. Obviously. So, I'm telling this person the story, and then I relate it back to my military career and the impact of my military career. I grew up wanting to be that writer. Remember the 8-year-old writing the Vampires versus Werewolves short story in 2nd grade? I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be an author. I wanted to publish books. That was a thing that was always going to happen for me. And I, out of necessity, had to join the military. I told you all in episode 81 about not buying the lie, that the military was my way into college, to be able to afford college so I could go to school and get that degree and have a chance. I was not going to be satisfied working dead-end jobs without an education. That's the type of environment I grew up in. And I had no interest in staying in that environment for the rest of my life. It was desolate, discouraging, depressing. So that's why I joined. And in that respect, the military served me well. But I paid the big price overall. Life is short. You only get one life. Sorry for those of you who disagree or believe differently. You only get one life, in Paul's opinion, and you never know when you're going to sign out. You don't know when this is going to end. You should really spend a lot of time being happy because there's enough opportunities for life to suck. It's much cooler when you're happy. And I can say this based on experience because I'm not very smart. I'm not a bright person. I had to live through this to understand it, which is why, as I focus more on the books, and throttled back on doing the big logistical work, like doing the interviews for this show, so I can focus on those books. I also wanted to kind of tweak the presentation of this show and help those who are coming behind me. Not that in terms of writing, I'm all that. I mean, chronologically, people who haven't lived the experiences that I have, and try to help them the best I can, hoping that through our relationship and me not being a family member or not personally invested in their life, that they'll actually hear some of the things I have to say as I share tips, tools, and tactics along the way. So, that respect of spending my life doing a job I absolutely hated, the military crushed my creativity. I had to get up, right? And early in their long days and their mentally exhausting days, and so many days I would go home with a migraine or a stress headache or just mentally worn out. And the social pressures of the lunchtime thing, right? Hey, you going to go to lunch with us? You're going to go to lunch with us? You're going to go to lunch with us? Right? Those social circles, almost that unspoken expectation that if you're going to be part of this team, you need to do these things. Those things take time, and it takes away from your ability to invest in your writing. And the more you do those things, the more of a habit they become. The more of a habit they become, you become entrenched in that type of behavior. What about you? Are you doing the thing that you want to do for the rest of your life? I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that most of you aren't. Most of you are not doing that thing out of love. You're doing that thing out of necessity to pay the bills. Because let's be honest, writing doesn't. Even if you have a moderately successful novel, first novel, more likely than not, easily more likely than not, it's not going to pay your mortgage, your rent, your food bill, maybe not even your electricity. Maybe it does, but it doesn't help you put away for health insurance or any insurance. College, kids' college, things like this, the big life stuff, the real life stuff. So to slightly risk going into dad mode and talk about finances and whatnot, that's the biggest thing, right? Is ensuring that you have an opportunity to not do a thing that you hate for the rest of your life. But recognizing that and recognizing your rationalization. I get that you might have to do that thing to pay the bills until you can make the living off of writing. I get that. I did it. I would be a hypocrite to say anything less. However, comma dash, it's all about your mindset. Are you accepting that reality? Are you accepting it to the point where you're now rationalizing it? I did. And I'm asking you to not do that to yourself. If the job kills your creativity, you have to work around that. Don't make excuses for it. I see writers do that so often. Don't do it. You're giving yourself that crutch to lean on. And your ruptured Achilles, for those of you who don't know, I've ruptured my Achilles twice since Thanksgiving. That which happens in November. For those of you who don't have Thanksgiving in your culture, happened in November. It's now May 2019. So I've been a little sensitive to that topic. But if you don't do that physical therapy, the injury is never going to heal. If you give yourself that out and always rationalize away why you're doing what you're doing, you're giving yourself a crutch that you're going to lean on and you're never going to heal. You're never going to make that progress you need to make to reach those goals. Some of you can get away with that. Some of you only want to publish a thing. You know, that important book that's lived with you for 30 years, that memoir, whatever, that's fine. Then you might be able to have a little bit of privilege and luxury of kind of disregarding this, though, I would encourage you that it will also benefit you in seeing your own bigger picture, whatever that may be, and the possibilities, whatever those may be. We don't know what tomorrow is bringing. Even if it's just that one book that you've had in you for 30 years and that's all you want to do, there may be much more for you on the other side of that. You can't say there isn't because you don't know. You haven't been there yet, right? No self-fulfilling prophecies allowed on this show. So, but for those of you who hold bigger aspirations, I'm going to ask you to really take that hard look at yourself. Are you getting up early? Yeah, it sucks. Put on your big boy and big girl panties and underwear and deal with reality. You know, so what if it's early and you're tired? Go to bed earlier. You know, I mean, if that is a thing that's stopping you from achieving your writing goals, why would you give yourself that excuse? I'm tired. It's early. I'm not a morning person. Those are all excuses. All of them are excuses. Now, yes, there are moments or times in a day when each of us is mentally/creatively fresher. You have to identify that. But if you're mentally fresher at 10 o'clock in the morning, but you start work at 7 o'clock in the morning and you never have an opportunity to write during that fresh time, what's the alternative? You don't write? You will get to it someday when the kids are gone. You might not ever get to that point. That's the harsh reality. Today is the only day. This moment is the only moment you're guaranteed because you're alive and you're listening to this. You might not finish this episode. And as dark and as twisted, and hey, look, I'm a horror writer. As dark and as twisted as that sounds, that's the reality, folks. You've got to live while you're living. And if that means you got to get up stupid early to get half-ass writing in, then you get up stupid early and get half-ass writing in. And in those moments that you can recapture when you're mentally and creatively fresher, you work on editing and tweaking and fixing that half-ass writing. But you don't give yourself that excuse that you can't do it. You're not a morning person, blah, 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 blah. And you all know your work day, your work routine. You know when those slow times are that you can sneak some work in. You know when your lunch is coming or your break is coming. And you know what you do in those times. You don't have to go out with the coworkers 3 to 5 times a week for the social political pressure of the job. You don't. That's part of the lie that I was talking about in episode 81. Sure, you do have to play a political game, social game. Absolutely. But it's about striking that balance. I don't feel like going out to my car to get some writing in. I don't feel like these are all excuses. What are your excuses? On your 15-minute break, what are you doing? Well, I need to unwind. Do you? The reality is that privileged people aside, those people who can just, who have a spouse who supports them financially so they can focus on writing, let's stop using them as a crutch, as an excuse, as the example. Let's look at the rest of us, those of us who do have to work for a living, have to manage a household, a relationship, children, demands of life. Those writers, those authors, let's look at that because that's where we are. The people who come from those times, J.K. Rowling's the easy example, being the single mother of, children and pulling off what she did, right? The people, and I don't want her to use her as the measuring stick for us, but the seriously scaled down version of her, the person who's still making a living writing, $100,000 a year in their writing, those people didn't have it handed to them. They worked their asses off. They stopped making excuses. They stopped getting distracted. and they focused. They took those lunch hours to work on their writing. Those 15-minute breaks, instead of smoking out on the dock or bullshitting with a coworker, they went into a bathroom stall and did some quick idea jotting, outlining, editing, whatever it was. They worked. They made those sacrifices. And now here's the benefit is one, doing that analysis for yourself and being real with yourself about what you're actually doing will help you identify those opportunities. And when you start recapturing those opportunities, establishing those opportunities, like the early morning thing, they start becoming habits. And when they become habits, they become easier. Getting up super early is not going to be easy for a long time, and it may never. I get up at 4:45 now. I used to be the 4:58 club. I'm now like the 4:45 club. It's not easy, but it's a habit. I look forward to writing. I don't look forward to the alarm going off, but I look forward to writing. The past 2 mornings, I've woken up at 3 a.m. 2 mornings in a row now. I went back to sleep, but in that 1 minute of consciousness, I was already thinking, ooh, I get to go work on RIP, my new manuscript, in an hour and a half. We have to be real, but when we are real, we can start establishing these healthy behaviors. It's all about the behaviors. What are you actually doing? Stop listening to yourself talk, because those are just excuses. What are you actually doing? And you'll know the answer if you're doing what you need to be doing to reach your goals or not. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. By doing these things and by recapturing this time, we recapture or we maintain our flow. We stay in our story. We stay intimate with our story. We look forward to these things. And it gets us through these longer times that we have to survive while we're cashing out a customer, while we're stocking a shelf, while we're pushing paperwork in a dead cubicle world. It helps us get through these things. It helps us see the inspiration. It helps us motivate as you start working towards your goal. It was kind of like when I was going to school. The first couple of years, it seemed like I was never going to graduate, especially as an adult learner, non-traditional student, going to school at night after a long day of work. It felt like I was never going to get there. And then at one point, early in my junior year, all of a sudden I recognized there was a pinprick of light at the end of the tunnel, and it grew quickly. I realized how close I was to graduating, and I surged towards graduation. It's the same kind of feeling with writing. As you do it, as you stay true and faithful, and you do it day in and day out, there's going to become a point, a threshold, the event horizon. You'll be right on the cusp of that, and you'll recognize, oh, wow, there's the pinprick of light. That's the end of the tunnel. I see it coming now, and you'll rush toward it. And you'll stay creative. And one more tip, tool, or tactic to helping not kill your creativity because you work at a job that you hate is recognizing what that job does do for you. It provides. And the very real reality is your writing probably benefits from that, even though it may sound antithetical to the entire thing I've been talking about. The fact that you have a paycheck that gives you food and a place to live takes that pressure off your plate so your creativity can be your creative focus. There are writers who depend on their writing for a living. Their writing has to provide. And as a creative, you know what that means. Sometimes you're not true to yourself or your word. You're not faithful to the hard practice because you're trying to push product. You might have to change to appease, but you got to do it because the bills have to be paid. Flipping that paradigm to see how that job you hate, it can kill, but you can repair, you can fix, and you can correct through little behaviors day in and day out. None of this stuff is sexy, folks. I'm not here to sell you a how-to book of empty promises. That's that's not how things happen. That's not how people become successful. They become successful from hard work. That's it. And none of it is sexy. It's doing those little things that I've already mentioned that help you stay true, stay working, leaning forward, seeing the end of that light, and then relaxing on hating the job aspect by realizing, wow, I get to eat and stay warm at night because I have this thing, and my art is true to what my art is. I hope this has been helpful because flipping the paradigm, establishing a healthy mindset is so critical to how we address our work. Now, it is April. Not sure why I said May. It is April 2019. If you have not, please go subscribe to our new podcast, R being the Horrible Writing Community. The Stories We Tell is launching in April at the end of this month with 2 episodes, the first 2. The 3rd episode will come out in May. We're going to do it monthly after that. But we're giving the world 2 episodes this month. If you want to see what the writers who belong to this community are doing, you'll definitely want to check that out. It is absolutely awesome. Also, remember, we just did an episode about Picking My Brain where you can send in your audio questions. If you have questions, if you want to know how something works, a process, a thought, a theory, whatever, shoot me 3 to 5 questions, record it on your phone or gear if you have it, and send it to paulsadingproductions@gmail.com. If you could avoid doing it in a noisy environment, that would be great because I can actually use your audio. But if you want to be on the show, go ahead and do that. Make sure that I know who you are, what you're working on, so we can shout about it on the episode as well. Leave a rating and review for the show on your favorite podcatcher. That stuff helps immensely. Cannot tell you how much it does help. And I want to thank the folks who are starting to go out there now and leave those ratings and reviews. It's really encouraging to see. I do want to take a second to thank Cianaris for leaving a 5-star rating for the show. An amazingly solid writing podcast. Discovered this podcast by the way of the interview with Chris Fox, which Chris is absolutely awesome. Was pleasantly surprised to find it relatable, relaxed, and encouraging in a way that really stuck with me. I've enjoyed listening to the back episodes and especially enjoyed the conversational ones with just Paul. Well, Cianaris, thank you, because you're going to get a lot more of that in the future. There is good advice, great suggestions, and zero negativity, which I'm so glad Cianaris picked up on that. The 3 things I can definitely get behind. Worth a listen if you're writing or love writing. So Cianaris, thank you very much for that. Folks, those are the kind of things that really help other people give this show a chance. Without you out there saying those things, I'm just another avatar in the Apple Podcast Store. So please, thank you if you do take the time to leave those ratings and reviews. They help out immensely. And it gives me a way to validate what I'm aiming to do, right? I don't want negativity on here. There are dark, ugly things about writing, but the thing is, we can all overcome them. Each and every one of us. Sometimes I do have to catch myself because I'm so fired up and I have such self-belief that I want to share it with everybody. And I'm recalling a story in my writing group yesterday. I had in the local writing group, I was talking to someone who's writing a memoir and it's very strong. And I believe they have a writing gift. And we were talking about them doing fiction someday. And they, right to my face, said, I can't do it. And you all know me. Now, I didn't say anything yesterday, but I'm not going to let that die with that person. I don't like the I can't. I can mindset. So it's really nice to hear Cianaris, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please forgive me if I'm not. But kind of validate that I push, I kick people in the shins, but none of it is out of antagonistic, malevolent motivations. This is all about me falling for lies, for most of my adult life, the vast majority of my adult life, me being surrounded by I can't people. I grew up in an I can't household. And me regretting, even though I try not to live with regrets, but me regretting not chasing my publishing dream and being unhappy for way too many years, and realizing now in this middle-aged stage of my life that I was unhappy, though I was surrounded by a wonderful wife and wonderful children, and I never needed for those essentials in life, and still being unhappy, serious depression, things like that, because I wasn't doing this. This is a big piece of who I am. And I know for many, many people, it's very much the same, even if it's only that one book, because this story means so much to me, Paul. After you're done with that, if you've lost love for it, that's fine. You've accomplished that one thing. But I know there's an army of us out there. So it's encouraging to see that the spirit that I'm trying to capture is being captured, is resonating with some of you out there. I love this horrible writing community in this nation, this tribe. Thank you for downloading, listening, streaming. If you haven't, I know Facebook is not the be-all, end-all, but it's an easy way for us to commiserate and to communicate that doesn't open us up to viruses like Discord does. So I stay away from Discord because of their security breaches. But beyond that, it's just an easy way for us to check in, plug in, and then get back to writing. Come over and join us. Search for Horrible Writing Writer Support Group on Facebook. And don't forget, go sub to The Stories We Tell, because it's about to happen. Until episode 84, keep being epic. This has been Horrible Writing, and hopefully after this episode, you suck less than you did at the beginning. I am Paul Sadin, your host extraordinaire. You can find me over on the Twitterverse @WritingHorrible and over at paulsadin.com/horrible-writing. Until next time, suck less.